Okay, this is a big topic that everyone has been talking about for the last few weeks. There's been a lot of controversy surrounding the price of the Switch 2, but more importantly, prices of the Switch 2 games, the biggest offender being Mario Kart World, which will cost 80 USD. A lot of people are super emotional on this topic and are very mad at Nintendo, saying that they are evil, this is pure greed, and they must be boycotted, all that stuff. In this video, I want to talk about this topic, and not just from the angle of Nintendo specifically. Whether you think Mario Kart is worth 80 bucks or not is a matter of opinion, but now that this threshold has been crossed, more games are going to cost that much. And we know that GTA 6 is coming out next year, which could cost even more. So I want to talk about the rising price of games in the industry, why is it happening, and how it's going to affect the health of the gaming industry as a whole. And to quote Mr. Yoshida, who did an interview recently, these prices were going to happen sooner or later, regardless of if Nintendo did it or not. This is the way the industry is headed, so let's talk about it. If you've been paying attention to the world around us over the last few years, you know that the economy has not been doing great, inflation has been hitting hard, so everyone's money is worth less than it was before. So when you see a bunch of prices going up all around you, it's not just that everyone is raising their prices at the same time for fun, it's that the value of $1 has reduced compared to before, so now you need more dollars to buy anything. But the effect of inflation doesn't stop there. Big corporations like Nintendo and other game companies have a lot of employees, and without them, they can't make games. So these people are essential, and employees expect pay raises that can at least keep up with inflation over time. Nintendo is estimated to have around 8,000 employees around the world, so imagine all of these salaries growing every year to catch up with the aggressive inflation that we've been seeing lately. That means that the amount of money needed every year for the company just to operate is constantly growing. So for them, raising the price of their games is a way to keep earning more than they spend. And this brings me to my next point, which is that companies are not our friends. I think video games are so special and fill our soul with so much joy that sometimes people end up developing a strong attachment to certain game companies. And if you start feeling like a company is your friend, then when they do a move that you don't like, it feels like a personal betrayal. And I think that's a big reason why so many people are freaking out at Nintendo right now. Every corporation has the same number one goal, and it's to make more money. And this is not a jab at Nintendo specifically. Every corporation is kind of greedy in that way because that is how they are built. Making good games is important to them, but never as much as making money. Now you might be thinking, okay, I understand what you're saying so far, but how come some amazing games are being released and they're priced reasonably? Why can't every game company just do that? And I totally get your point. To me, that's almost a different topic though, because it comes down to indie versus mega corporations. And I think that there's so much to say here that it could be its entire video topic. I definitely agree that there are many things that indie devs can do better than mega corporations. Mega corporations do tend to bloat their team, bloat their budget, and then bloat the price of their games. And it's awesome when we can see an indie team of only 30 people make an amazing game, reasonably priced. It really is a breath of fresh air. So thankfully, we do have indie game devs as part of this industry, but my video is mostly focused on corporations, which, let's admit it, at the end of the day, they produce the bulk of the games available for this medium. Now, I'd like to compare the gaming industry to the film industry for a little bit. I know this is a bit of a tangent, but bear with me, you'll see why I'm comparing them very soon. And I think a lot of people would agree that the film industry has been declining over the years. I'd say it was at its peak around the year 2000, and ever since it's been generating less money, and this might be a matter of opinion, but the films that have been coming out have been steadily worse as well. To give a bit of context to this comparison, let's look at some numbers. I know these numbers are so crazy that it might be a bit hard to believe, but I tried looking at different sources and it seems that they all point to the same answers. In 2024, the gaming industry generated more than 5 times the money that the film industry generated. This is absolutely insane. I guess that the difference between these two industries keeps growing even more rapidly than I realized. Now, this right here might be the strongest argument to say that no, the price of games shouldn't go up. Obviously, the gaming industry is generating a ton of money already, and there should be enough for companies to keep doing what they do. But sadly, the greed of people at the top is always pretty strong. I'll get to that point a bit later in the video. And to me, this chart highlights how good the game industry is doing, but also how bad the film industry is doing. And this causes a lot of bad effects for the film industry, and it could be the future that awaits the game industry if money stops coming in. So what happens when an industry is on the decline like that? Well, first of all, the regular employees are going to be the ones that feel it the hardest. They risk receiving pay cuts or even losing their job. If we look at numbers, we can see that the average salary in the film industry is quite a bit lower than the average in the gaming industry. Over time, the film industry is going to start bleeding talent. Imagine the most talented artists in the film industry. If they keep seeing low numbers like this year after year, eventually it'll make more sense to them to switch to the gaming industry where they can have a better pay and better job security. This is something I've seen happen a lot over the years, so this will create another effect. You might have seen before some people ask, how come this film is so old yet looks so good, and how come this film is more recent and looks a bit worse? Well, I'm sure there's many reasons for this, but I think one of the factors would be that studios are less willing to invest into the development of their films. So now the teams have to produce an incredibly high amount of work in shorter and shorter amount of time. It's not a good working environment for these artists, and because of it, the result is often worse for the customers as well. Another effect of the decline of the film industry is that studios are less willing to take risks, so we end up with way more sequels, reboots, etc. So if you're a fan of a specific medium, you want this industry to do well because you'll get better products. If we look at the film industry, we know that the way the wealth is distributed is very unfair. We have the big CEOs at the top making an obscene amount of money, then you have big executive producers also taking a huge cut, and by the time you reach the regular employees, there's way less money left for them. And now, if we look at the gaming industry, we see a similar pattern where big CEOs also make an obscene amount of money, but because there is much more money generated per year in the game industry, what ends up trickling down to the regular employees is actually much better. I'm sad to say this, but because of the way people are, I believe that this kind of unfairness will always happen in any industry that grows up to a certain point. So the only way for an industry to remain healthy is that it generates so much money that it just naturally offsets the greed that happens at the top. So let's wrap this up. Obviously, the gaming industry is far from perfect, and there is some uncertainty as well. A lot of people lost their job in the last year. But despite all that, I think if we look at the film industry, it shows us how worse things could be, both for employees and in terms of the products that come out on the market. So where do I stand on this $80 game issue? Like everyone, I think it's a lot and I don't love it, but if there's a game I really want and it's that price, I'll buy it. I guess I was actually expecting it for a while due to the state of the economy, the inflation, and the way companies always need more money all the time. If it didn't happen this year, it would have been next year or something. I feel it was unavoidable, and if it helps the game industry to stay healthy compared to the film industry, which I have seen shrivel up, it's a price I'm willing to pay. However, I totally understand that for a lot of people, this is too much, and for you guys, I would say maybe focus more on indie games. There's no better way to send a message in this industry than to vote with your wallet. Personally, I'm not really mad at game companies for pulling moves like this. I'm actually more mad at governments and banks. They're the ones that have been messing with our economy for years. They do whatever they want and they're never held accountable. So I hope things get better on that front one day, but I think it's gonna take a while. In the meantime, let's hope that the economy recovers and that people start getting a fair pay once again, and then these prices will make more sense. Let me know in the comments what you think. Are you gonna buy an $80 game, or are you thinking this is over the line for you? Looking forward to discuss this with you guys. Thanks so much for watching. Have a good week and see you next time.